Hey everyone, this is Terry with the Southern Junker. Welcome back to my channel. And today I thought we would do a quick tutorial on how I made these postcards / cabinet cards to go in my journals. I had so much fun making these, and I think they turned out pretty cute. So I'm going to walk you through how I did these. So hopefully you can make them and add them to your journals too. They were very easy to make. And let's get started. So here's what I used to make them. I started out with a postcard. This is just a regular postcard. You can pick them up on Amazon, online. I'm not for sure what stores, like maybe a stationery store or something like that. And I'm also going to give you a few options that if you don't have those, you can make them as well. I have some vintage people images. These happen to be the Tim Holtz vintage people. You can also download, I believe I've used Graphics Fairy, anything like that that you just download on paper, or a vintage magazine or book, any book that you have that has vintage people in them as well. I have used a die cut. This happens to be Spellbinders Labels 8, and it has nesting little frames in them, and this is the one out of that I'm using. It's appropriate size for what I have. You can use anything. You will need a die cut, anything maybe oval or any kind of pretty shape that kind of looks like maybe a cabinet card, but we're going to be using this one today. And I actually, to back them, just used my coffee dyed paper, and I printed some images on the coffee dyed paper, cut them to size, and then attach those to the back once we were complete. I've got a couple postage stamps here for us that we're going to use. I have two different kinds of ink, and this is optional. So I have antique linen for Distress Ink from Tim Holtz, and then I also have vintage photo, and then the applicators for those. A couple tools that I have. I've got a pen. We're going to use a distress crayon, and the one that I'm using today is Gathered Twigs. This is from Tim Holtz as well. It's optional, you don't have to use it. I have a bone folder and my scissors that we're going to be using, and then lastly my glue, and I use Fabri-Tac. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut out our place for our vintage photo. So I'm going to run this through the die cut machine. We're going to do two, so I'm going to run these through the die cut machine, and I will be right back with it. Okay, this is what we've got. So that's going to be the base of our cabinet card. The second thing, let me get a scrap piece of paper here for us, that I'm going to do is we're going to ink it up. We're going to vintage it up a little bit. As you can see, this one's very white, and these have the vintagey feel to them. So I'm going to just dress them out a little bit, and that's where I'm going to use both of my inks that I have. So the first one is the antique linen, and pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to take that throughout the whole postcard here. We're just going to give it kind of a yellowy vintage kind of feel. And I apologize if that shakes the camera a little bit. And I not only do it around the edges, but I want to bring it in to the middle as well. And you can do as little or as much as you'd like to on this, depending on what your style is. A little bit more in here. Kind of even it out some. Okay. Now we're going to go in with the vintage photo. I'm going to bring it in on the edges. So I kind of dab a little bit just to get that initial off there. And then we're going to, I tilt mine at a slant a little bit so it's not going straight on. So that way it kind of progressively comes on there a little bit. And we're going to go around that just to give it a little pop, little darkness on the edges, and it'll make the inside of it pop as well. And I'm going to show you a trick. So I don't know if you can see this, where it actually made marks to look like I've stamped it. I'm going to show you a little trick on how I take care of that. Let's get this done first. I still go around my edges. Okay, and then I actually take it from the inside and just hit those around the cabinet card. So it'll make that little frame pop out as well once you get that picture in there. Okay. And then again, as you can see, I have these little harsh lines, which I frequently do when I get carried away with the ink. So a trick to that, go back in with your first color, the antique linen, dab it out, and just go over those. And it actually takes, you can do that all the way around of where you've done it, and it takes away those harsh lines. See how that's smoothed it out? I've got a few lines over here as well from where my ink was too much whenever I hit it. And that really does help with those. Now you don't see those harsh lines anymore. So that's a trick I use all the time when I do it. Now the next thing I'm going to do before we insert our image, and this is optional, is I'm going to use this distress crayon, Gather Twigs, from Tim Holtz. And I'm not for sure if I can show you that on camera or not, but around this cutout is a little bitty, like a frame line on the outside. So what I'm going to do by using this distress crayon, it's going to pop out that frame just even a little more. So what I do is I actually take some of it and just put it on my finger, warms it up a little bit, and let's pray it works. And I'll do half of it and then show you, and then so you can see and compare. So I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to lightly rub around there. And you keep having to add just a little bit more as you go. And hopefully you're going to be able to tell on camera. You can definitely tell in person if you can't tell on camera. Let's see what we got here. You see there's a little white edge that goes around that. And you can't see it on the other side, but you can see it on there. And it really visually does make it pop. So we're going to go around that other one a little bit to do the same thing. You can use any color that you want, like any color of like a dark yellow, a taupe, a brown, a weathered look, anything like that. And again, if it's too harsh for you, you can just take what's left of this and go around, and that smooths out those edges for you, but it still leaves that little frame. It's a little different, but it really does. So can you see I can see the frame around it now. It popped it out. So that's a little trick I use on that as well. So the next thing that we're going to do is we have our vintage images, and we'll use this one first. And basically what you want to do when you're doing your images is you want to pick the size of the frame that you want, pick a picture, and just make sure that it frames it. Doesn't all have, the whole picture doesn't have to go in there, but that's what it's going into. So you want to make sure that, I always just hold it up to the book or whatever I'm doing just to make sure that that's the right frame, and it fits this as well. And now we are going to glue it to the back. So I turn this over and I'm going to just run this along the edges there of my frame. And another thing I probably should have done first, and I didn't do, but we'll eyeball it here and see. I'll take it here, take my scissors. Normally I would have done that before I did the glue. I'm a little bit backwards. And immediately turn it around while that glue is still forgiving. And you can move that around just a little bit where you need it to go. I think that looks pretty even to me. Okay, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I have a little postage stamp that I've already picked out. I'm going to distress around that a little bit. Pop that on there. And now we want to do our, that's the front. Now we want to do the back because that's what it looks like. So I have taken my coffee dye paper and ran it through my printer. The ones I do actually works through my inkjet printer after I coffee dye it. And I'm going to put it through with just pick any type of image I've got downloaded on my computer. And we're going to glue that to the back. Hold it up and make sure we got it even. Burnish that glue on there. And then I just make sure I don't have any white showing around the bottom. If I do, I would cut it off, but then just go ahead and distress around the edges. And there you go. So that's our first one made. I got a little bit of white down there. There we go. So easy to make. Use them in tuck spots for your journals. You can actually take two together, combine them with washi tape as a page that opens up in your journals as well. So let's do one more, and I want to show you an option that I did as well. So for those of you that don't have postcards to use, let me give you another option of what I've done. You can actually just get any type of cardstock. It doesn't even have to be this size. It could be any cardstock. Cut it down to about 4 by 6, which is what your postcards are. And here's a couple of them that I made just by cutting those down to 4 by 6. So the very first one, I just took this stamp here, which you can find probably Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's, and I used it to stamp to do a faux postcard. And then the other one, I just used a ruler and kind of mimicked this one that I had here. So I just drew a line partially down. I did the 4 lines here. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I'm sure with practice I would get better at it. I did my 2, and then I stamped postcard. You just want to make sure that you leave room for your die cut when you put your die cut on here for your photograph. So let's do one more real quick. So again, we're starting off with the white card that I've already cut. I think I knocked out about 5 or 6 of these in 30 minutes the other day. So very, very, very easy to make, especially if you already have the postcards. And again, get as much or as little as you want to. Sometimes I like the more white, clean, crisp look in my journals, and then sometimes I like more of the grungier feel. So it kind of all depends on what mood I'm in. Get that going around. See, I've got a lot of those little lines in there I need to fix now. It's okay. Sometimes I go too fast. I'm not patient or slow enough. Let's line the inside of that. And that's optional as well. I do think it makes it pop though. I think that looks good for that. Let's go back in there a little bit on these little harsh lines. I keep bending that old postcard, that's all right. Make it even look older when I do that. Okay, I think that's probably close to the grunginess I want there. And go in with that distress crayon just lightly. I don't press hard at all. I'm just lightly going over it. There we go. Let's take left what's on here one more time. Just kind of smooth that out just a little bit. All right, I believe that's good enough. Now let's see if I can do this the right way this time. Actually, I typically hold it up here. Make sure it's kind of framed where I want it to be framed. Then turn it over. And that's where I use my pen. I just mark it. Now we'll cut. There we go. Run that glue right along the edges there. Place that there. And again, while that glue is forgiving, turn it around and make sure that you've got it even as you want. I thought I'd add a little pop of color to this one with the postage stamps. So these are the postage stamps that I did the tutorial for a while back. So these are handmade, stamped out of my scrap paper. So I will link that video below if you would like. And then this is the scrap paper that I already printed. You can use scrap paper. I just like coffee dyed. I like it to look as if it's the back of a cabinet card, so that's why I did that with that image. It's totally up to you. Any type of designed scrapbook paper would look cute. You could do plain coffee dye paper, just do lines across it or leave it blank so they can use it to journal. Let me make sure I got this the right side. Let's burnish it. I've got a lot of white around there, so let's move that around. Well, that's still a little forgiving. There we go. And a little down. Take my distress ink around because I've got a little bit of white showing of that card behind it. That's okay. And there we go. So that's the second one. So very quick, very easy. And like I said, I think they're super pretty to use inside your journals. All right, everybody, I believe that's it. So if you like this tutorial, please click like at the bottom, subscribe to my channel so I know to keep doing videos like this. If you click like, that tells me you like them. That's what I want to keep coming to you. So thanks everybody for joining me today, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.